as propagate this light would say, rock steady.
You're now in tuned with Near-Death Experiencer, Vicki Button.
Hi. Thank you for having me on your channel and allowing me to share my near-death experience. And can I just give a bit of a background on sort of leading up? I always wanted to know what it felt like to have a near-death experience because I have been working as a clairvoyant for most of my life, and I understood. I had a certain belief system of how things should have been, and I read a lot of books, and I read what other people had experienced in their life, and I wanted to know what it felt like for myself. So it actually wasn't until 3 years ago that I had my near-death experience, and it just opened up my mind to so much more, and it clarified a lot of what I already thought life was like when we had passed away. It opened up my mind to a lot more. It also helped me to understand where I thought some things and it wasn't like that. It was very different. So what actually happened in my near-death experience was I wasn't feeling very well this particular day, and I had taken, I had a headache. I had a really bad headache, and I took a Disprin, and I didn't realize that my body is actually allergic to Disprin. I have a reaction like some people would have with peanuts, or what they would have with seafood. You know how you have like an anaphylaxis reaction? Well, that's what actually happened to my body when I took this Disprin, and it made all my breathing close over, it made my airways close over, and my son found me on the floor in the bathroom. I couldn't breathe. So he rang an ambulance to come to my house. And I just instinctively knew I was going to die. But I had absolutely no fear whatsoever. And so the ambulance came. I actually said to the ambulance officer, she was putting me onto the bed to take me into the back of the ambulance. I looked at her and I said, I'm going to die. And then I think she just put a breathing mask on my face, and I went out to it. I don't remember. I was in a local hospital, and then I was transported an hour away to a city hospital, and I don't remember any of that at all. I was not conscious through any of that. What I do remember is floating out of my body in a very, very gentle way. There was nothing scary about it. and I floated out of my body. Now, when I looked down, my body did not, my spirit soul self that was out of my body did not look like the physical body over there on the hospital bed. It was particles of light, and it's like they move very, very quickly, but I still knew it was me. I knew it was me, but I didn't have a sensation that I had died. There was no fear. It was very, very loving. It was very, very calm. I felt my soul self move to right next to this doctor who was working on my body. I could see the doctor putting tubes down my nose, and I could see everything that was happening in the physical world. You don't have physical eyes, so you're not seeing things like you see things with your physical eyes, but you still see things. It's more of a knowing. It's quite an incredible feeling and very hard to describe. But I was next to this doctor, and I knew everything about him. Never met him before in my real life, but in my experience, I knew why he became a doctor. I knew he was married. I knew he had children. I knew where he lived. I knew his personality. It's like having a whole record of his existence, and I could just tap into it. If you imagine, if you had a computer file on somebody and you just clicked it and you had absolutely all the knowledge of their life, that's how it felt when I was next to this doctor. I just knew everything about him. Then my soul moved and next to a nurse, and the same thing happened again. The moment I got next to this nurse, I knew everything about her. And it's a feeling of you kind of know them, but you don't know them. It's like you really do feel like all our souls are connected. But when we get into our earth body and we get into life on earth, we have to go and find those souls. We have to find the souls that we have already known. And that explains why sometimes you meet somebody and you just feel like, I really know this person. I know them on a really deep level. I know them on a soul level. And you do. Because you going to have stronger experiences with some souls than you are others. Others are just passes through. So after I had done this with the doctor and the nurse and realized that I could just know everything about them, I then turned and I saw a being, a very strong masculine being entity, it's kind of like they're not dressed. If I wanted to put a earthly look to them, I would have said he was wearing a robe, but he was also light as well. He was like this contained, like sparkling light that kept moving, but I could see the shape of him. And he came towards me and asked me to, and it's not like there's no speaking. It's a telepathic thought. So he just looked at me, and I knew that the words he was saying to me was, you have to come with me. And I felt so comfortable with him. So I followed him. I just knew that I could trust this was the right place to go. I didn't see a lot of people in a near-death experience will actually see a big ball of light or a tunnel with a light at the end. My experience with this being coming down was more of a hallway. He was coming down the hallway, and I was following him down the hallway. I often think later I thought maybe I was actually in the hospital hallway and he was taking me out of that space. I'm not sure, but I just saw this hallway. Then throughout me following this entity down the hallway, I looked across to the left and I saw every person who I had ever known in this lifetime. They were all there. There was my mum's spirit was there, my grandparents, few of my best friends that have passed over, an old school teacher that taught me in primary school, her spirit was there. Some parents of my friends were there. Every single being that I had anything to do with in this lifetime was there. And they were all grouped together. And they didn't look like they did when they were alive. They were, again, these particles of light, but I just knew who they were. There was absolutely no question that I didn't know who they were. I just knew exactly who they were. There is an intense knowing when you have stepped out of your body and you are just higher consciousness. There is a knowing that is always so right. You don't even want to question it. So I really was so excited. I wanted to go over there and reunite with these souls that I had known, and this spirit entity that was leading me down the passageway. He said, "You can't go there this time." So I wasn't even upset by that. I wanted to go over there and I wanted to be with them. But when he said, "You can't go this time," it was still fine. Everything was okay. And I continued to follow him. And we got to this. It was like this. It feels like a room, but it doesn't really have walls. It's just this massive, expansive space. And there's books there. And it's like there are books there of every single existence that has ever existed. You could also equate it to being like a computer program where there is a file on every single existence. The file contains the personality that you have created. It contains the stories that you've created in your life. It contains the lessons that you learnt in that life. It contains the problems, any hurt that you caused other people. It's an incredible amount of information about an existence is held in that record. I do know that some people have referred to those as Akashic records, but I wasn't given a name like that. This being told me it was the room of knowledge. They were calling it the room of knowledge. So while I was in this room of knowledge, he said to try something, to go over and hold a book, but don't open it. So I held this book. I put my hand on this book and I knew the whole story in the book without opening it, without reading everything. The way you can have knowledge about absolutely everything when you have left your body is absolutely incredible. While I was also in this space of this room of knowledge, I felt him downloading information into me, which I could use at a later date. And I feel like he was giving me lots and lots of information, but I wasn't going to recall it all when I came back into my body. It's like a drip feed. I'm just going to get little bits and pieces over the next couple of years. That may be because the way that I process things, it might have been too overwhelming to know absolutely everything all at once. Or it's just I have to learn some things myself still on my journey before I can understand these bigger lessons. But over the last 3 years, I have these downloads that were given to me in that room of knowledge. They come back up to the surface into my conscious self, and I talk about them. And I talk about, I tend to ask a lot more questions than I used to. I tended to trust a lot more. Now I'm asking a lot more questions and getting other people to open their mind to not just believing everything that we're told, to question everything. So this download was happening, and then all of a sudden it was time to go back to my body. So we went back down the passageway again, and then I found myself back in the room where my body was. My body is still on the table. There's still doctors and nurses there. I could see tubes coming out of me. I could see medical equipment on me. My soul self then went over to my body, and it didn't go like, so my physical body was here and my soul was just floating above. I was not fully in my body. I was just floating above. while I was floating above, I was very, very aware of everything in the non-physical realm, and I was aware of everything in the physical realm at exactly the same time. And then all of a sudden, on the non-physical realm, where my soul was floating, I felt these 4 screens come in. And it was like a TV screen, but there was one there, and there was one there, there was one in front of me, and there was one behind me. And colors started to come out of the screens. And the screens there were circles and circles of colors, like the most vivid colors you've ever seen. And like 2,000 times more vivid than you can see with your earthly eyes. And as these colors started coming out of the screens, they were going into my chakra points in my body. There was like the red just went straight into my root chakra, and then the orange came in, and then the yellow came in, and it just kept moving up. And it was like it was realigning my system. And that there's no concept of time. You have no idea how long this whole journey is. It could have been in a split second, or it could have taken an hour or longer. I have no idea of the time concept. But these colors just continually kept vibrating into my body until I heard a voice say, and it was a voice coming from spirit's side, not a physical voice. The spirit voice said, she can go back now. And then I felt myself in my body. And the next moment I heard of a voice which was in the real world, and it was a nurse, and she was calling my name. And I opened my eyes and I looked at this nurse, and I said to her, did you just see all the colors? And she just looked at me like I was strange. And I said, did you see all the colors? The colors were amazing. Like, they were so vivid. I want to go back. I really want to go back. And she just didn't really have any concept of what I was talking about. Probably thought I was dreaming. And then I was okay. You know, my breathing was all back to normal again. The doctors were really amazed how very, very sick I was, and on the edge. Well, as I said, I stopped breathing. And then all of a sudden I was just perfectly fine. And I went home 2 days later. Another thing that I experienced whilst out of my body, when we were coming back down the hallway, I have 5 sons in this lifetime. They are all grown men now. And if in my physical life, if I think of one of my sons and I focus around one of my sons, I can feel, if he's not feeling right, or I can feel something about him. But I can only do one son at a time. So I could focus on one son, and then I could focus on another one. But when I was in that place of being out of my body, I knew what all 5 of my sons were feeling at exactly the same time. And the way it works is when they have a thought, their thought has an emotion attached to it, and that sends out a frequency. And that's what spirit can feel. They communicate through that telepathy. So even when we've passed over, when I had passed, I was out of my body and I knew that I had died at that point, I had no fear that my children weren't going to be okay. I knew that they would have all coped. I knew, and I could even see what their life journey was going to be. So a lot of people, when they lose a loved one, those that are here on earth, we often think, are they worrying about us? Or, but they won't be, because they are still connected. I was totally connected to my 5 sons. Even though I was out of my body, energetically, I was totally connected to them, and that would never break. That never goes away. The souls are continually connected all the time. So it was a real wake up to, it's incredible that how we can feel so much information and have so much knowledge when we are out of our physical body. The moment we come back into this physical body and we have a brain, we restricted a lot. Our ego thoughts get in the way, and we overthink a lot of things. So it was probably after I'd gone through the whole experience and I'd got back home again, I went through a very, very severe depression because I wanted to go back. I just loved, it was like going home. It was like being back in that beautiful space of love again. And when I came back here, it was like, that was in 2020 when this happened, and COVID was happening, and everything was in lockdown, and everything was just, disorganized and whatever. And I just didn't want to be back here. I just thought, why can't I go back to where it's loving and beautiful? Why do I have to come back into this crazy earth space where, everyone's angry and there's so much judgment? So for about 3 weeks, I was stuck in a depressed kind of mode. Then I kind of started thinking, well, there's a reason I came back here. And I've got to share this experience with other people. I've got to help other people understand that we don't die. We don't die. We just step out of our body and we go into another dimension. I'd like to help people know that their loved ones that have passed are still totally connected to them, and they can feel every thought and emotion that they are going through. It's only, when we get caught up in life here on earth, when we are in a really low vibration, that we can't feel our loved one's energy. It's there. It's always there. We just got to tap into it by controlling our own energy and our own frequency. So that's what I've been doing since that happened, and the downloads that I get, I am sharing them with people, questioning a lot of belief. There's an awful lot of belief in the spirit world. Some people have, such strong beliefs. They may have watched movies and got a programmed belief in their mind about how they think it's supposed to be. They may have read books. They may just be learning. And I know myself, I have changed my thought pattern many, many times over the years from what I've learned, what I used to think it was supposed to be like. And when you go through experiences, that's where you learn. You learn from your experiences. So that's basically my thing. Does anybody have any questions, or, what are we talking about around this topic? No questions at the moment. Deja vu. I feel like deja vu is when we have already, because we can step out of the time zone that we are in and step into a future time zone. So I feel like a lot of times this happens in our sleep, where we astral travel, and we astral travel out of our body. We go into a future time zone and we just hold it there. We hold that knowledge there. We come back. Then when we actually go through it, we actually live the experience. We're like, oh, we've already done this. And sometimes it's so clear that you actually know what the next person is going to say, or you know what the next move is going to be, because you're just reliving what you already did. You already went there in a future time zone. I was explaining before about how a lot of our life can already be there, and we just have to tap into it. And I was telling a story about a young girl that had come to my home. She was 18 years of age. She was just sitting at the dining. She was friends of my kids, and she was sitting just talking, And while she was sitting there, I could feel all this energy. And when I feel something with somebody, I get this vision in my mind, like a flash, like a little movie that plays out, like a little story. And while she was sitting there, this thing was playing in my mind. And it was when she was 18 at the time, but I was getting shown that when she turns 28 years of age, she will meet a guy. She will fall pregnant to him. He won't want to have a child. She will want to have one. He won't want one. He will leave her, and she would end up being a single mother, and she would choose to stay being a single mother. That I got that whole story about what would happen in 10 years' time. So when she left that day, I turned around and my ex-husband was sitting there, and I said to him, do you know what I just picked up with that girl that was here? And he said, what's that? And I told him the whole story. I said exactly what I saw. And he said, what, you picked all that up just from her sitting there? I said, it was like I got tapped into a point of her future. And then I got shown what it was going to be like. But I didn't tell her because I didn't want to plant any seed in her mind. I didn't want her to follow that path that I just said. So I only told, like, he was my husband at the time. I just told him. So over the years, we kept in contact with her because she was a friend of one of our sons. And when she turned 28 years of age, she met a guy and she fell pregnant. And he didn't want to have the baby. So he left her and she gave birth to a little girl and she became a single mother. And today, this day, that little girl is now 16 years old and she's still a single mother. So I question a lot of the time, I feel like it's already there. That's already been planned out the way that is going to unfold in their life. And she just lined up to it. So it's not like she did, a lot of people, when they talk about the law of attraction and they're manifesting stuff, I feel like a lot of stuff is already there and we just have to line up with it because it's meant for us. And the stuff that doesn't manifest for us is not meant for us. It's not part of our journey. So what's that question? What does the absence of deja vu mean? I haven't had any since the late 2015, and I usually have them about 4 times a year. I don't know, if I don't have all the answers, so I don't know how we control. Is there something within you, Patrick, that trusts yourself enough now that you don't need to see ahead? So before, when you were having deja vu, was there a doubt within you where you needed some kind of evidence? So you're asking spirit to show, you're asking your higher self, can you show me some kind of evidence that would prove to me that I'm on the right track? And you've now got to a point since 2015. Have you got to a point in your life now where you trust yourself, where you don't need that evidence? You just know to trust you're on the right track. Maybe that's why you haven't had it since 2015. Which other astral projections, out-of-body experiences have you had? When I was younger, in my 20s, I used to go to meditation classes, and there was a lady there, oh, beautiful. This is her here. That's actually her there in the photo. She was an amazing psychic lady, and she held meditation classes 3 times a week in her home. And what she did was she never had anything planned. So there'd be about 10 to 12 of us that would all come and sit in her class, and she would talk us through a meditation that was guided, and she was guided on what to say. So she would take us on a journey. Now, she used to take us on a journey, and this is a little bit like hypnosis, where she would say, she'd get you into very relaxed, because you've got your eyes closed, you're breathing slowly, you've relaxed your legs, you've relaxed your arms, you've relaxed your body, everything is relaxed. And you're very, very aware of your physical self. And then she would say, you can now leave your body. You will always be safe as you leave your body, but you'll always have a cord that will connect you to your body, so you can't get lost, so there's no fear. So it felt more like we could be in a different place in the story she was saying, but we also knew where our physical body was. And the same thing happens when you've been hypnotized. You are aware of the room that you're in, but you're also in another story. You're in another place with your mind. So that was you're out of your body when you're doing that kind of a deep meditation. You can go out of your body, but you're still very, very aware of where your physical body is. But when you actually have a near-death experience, it's a totally different feeling. It's fully being out of your body. I didn't ever feel like there was a cord still connecting me to my physical body when I had the near-death experience, which was a different feeling from when I've been out of my body in meditation. In dreams, I've been out of my body many, many times in my dreams, where I've gone and actually watched a whole scenario and come back and told somebody, woken up in the morning and said, I just saw, like one of them was seeing a train derailing in Japan in an underground railway system. I saw the whole thing. I saw people running and crying and the injured people. It's like I'm there watching the story unfold, but I'm not participating in it. I'm not on the train. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not saving anybody. I'm just observing. And I've had other ones where I watched a helicopter crash into some power lines, and there was a fire, and the people were trying to run and get the pilot out of the helicopter. And I've seen all this in a dream state, and then a couple of days later, it's on the news. Same as the Tokyo train derailment. That was on the news about 4 days after I had dreamt it, and the helicopter was, about a month after I dreamt it. But in each of those situations where I astral travel, I don't interfere in anything that's going to happen. I just go and observe and watch. And I started questioning my higher self and my guides. I asked one day, well, what is the point of that? What is the point of me watching a disaster unfold if I can't stop it? So over the last probably 4 years, I have said, I don't want to see tragedies anymore. I don't show me premonitions of things that I can't stop, because there is no point in just upsetting me of something I can't stop. Earlier this year, because I said that, don't show me tragedies anymore. Earlier this year, I think it was about April, I quite often put up predictions that I see on social media, and I kept seeing Benjamin Netanyahu constantly being on the news. So I put a post up on my social media account and just said, Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be in the public eye a lot, on the news a lot. But I wasn't shown why. And then just after that, he actually had a health scare. And then someone wrote to me and said, oh, maybe you were seeing him in the news a lot because he's just had a health scare. But then as things have unfolded with the way things are in the Middle East at the moment, we are seeing a lot of Benjamin Netanyahu on the news. So either my guides or my higher self that do not want to see tragedy and pain anymore, instead of showing me a war that was happening, they've just showed me somebody that was going to be connected with that, which was going to be on the news. So that's how we kind of step out of this dimension and we just step into another time dimension. So next question. I've never been aware of a cord, but in the back of my head knew it. Yeah, it's a knowing. It's not a fear. It's like you, especially when you meditate and when you astral travel and when you deliberately want to go out of your body, you just know that there is that attachment there because it's not your time. When it is your time to not be in this physical body, the cord won't be there. You won't need the cord, and you won't. It's just like you know that you're going to come back. You know the cord's there because you know you're still going to come back into your body, because I believe we all know when our time is finished. I believe we do know when we're not going to come back. So when we know we're going to be here, we know that cord is just going to be there to protect us. So, yeah. I haven't ever seen my cord, but I do feel it when I go. It isn't that Isn't it that thing where you know when you start to drift off in your sleep and then all of a sudden you go bang back into your body, or you just jump back into your body? It's been said that that's our soul flying back into our body a bit too fast for us to cope with. So it feels like we actually fall back really, really quickly. Are dreams a deliberate barrier realm that exists between human consciousness and the spirit world? There's so many different kinds of dreams, isn't there? Because I feel like a lot of our dreams is a message from our higher self. So, you know, like if you're really, really stressed in life, or you're lost, or you don't know where you're going, and then you might have a dream where you can't find a way out. You know, you're in a house and you can't find the door anywhere. There's no way out. And it's like your emotional self is trying to help you find a way in your awake life to find a solution on how to get out of a problem. So there's those kind of dreams. And then there's the dreams where we really want our ego to just be quiet and go to sleep so we can hear clearly. So that's when we have more of a spiritual dream, because that ego mind thing, it just gets in the way a lot when we are trying to hear something clearly, but the thoughts that get in the way. So when we're asleep, the ego's asleep. And then we have, that's quite often too, when a lot of even myself, I get a lot of messages from spirit while I'm asleep. And I wake up with the message and I grab my phone and I've got my notes there and I write it down. And then I go back to sleep, because when I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to remember what was shown to me. So I've got it written on my phone. Then I read what I had written in my half awake, half asleep state. And it's like, I then get to ponder on it, you know, then I get to question it. And I'm like, yeah, I need to question that a bit more, ask a bit more about it. So dreams are, you know, they're a mixture of what they're there for. Question: have you ever been pulled out of your body by something else? I have never been pulled out of my body by something else. I have felt something laying on top of me, that what they call sleep paralysis, but that actually feels more, that was a one time only, and I was absolutely petrified, and I understood the power of fear. The more fear I had, the more I would attract a low, dense energy that I didn't want in my life. I just did not want to do that. So from that point onwards, I have only worked in a very high vibration, worked from a place of love, and I've never had anything like pull me out. Or I was talking earlier about this situation that happened where, this is years ago, I was in my home. I was talking to two of my girlfriends. One was called Leanne, one was called Fran. And I was sitting here and I'm talking to them. And we got into a very deep spiritual discussion. And I just started talking. It was something quite a deep subject. As I was talking, Leanne was looking at me and she said my face morphed into her mum. Her mum had passed away 4 months earlier. She said my whole face turned into her mother. She could see her mother in my face, like I physically changed. Yet Fran, that was looking at me, didn't see that. So it only changed for Leanne. Now, you could say that was Leanne's imagination, that she was seeing that in me. Her mother may have actually, because energy can transform. It can shape into something else. It can break away. It can move. It can transform. So her mother would have the ability to transform the face, like a falling needed comfort. The whole thing just needed to see that in that moment. So it doesn't matter why it happened. It just brought her the comfort that she needed. So that wasn't anybody pulling me out of my body. That was somebody stepping in to bring comfort to another person. Is there any more questions? Our loved ones that passed away able to hear our thoughts or hear us. Yes. When you have a thought, you have a feeling with that thought. So right now, you're thinking about, you have a feeling. Let's say you have a thought about a memory of something you did. Maybe one of your parents has passed away, and you're having a memory of something funny that happened. That thought has that emotion of joy that you had, that funny story that went with it. That frequency is what the loved one picks up. And they know what you're referring to. They can actually feel the same emotion as you at exactly the same time. And I found that with my 5 sons. Like I knew what they were feeling at exactly this. I could feel it. It's different than what we feel when we're in a physical body, but I could still feel what they were feeling. And so every thought that you send out, it's the emotion that is attached to the thought. And that frequency is, yes, definitely what they pick up. And I often think sometimes, like when we do pass away and we go up into this really, really high dimension, and earth people down here, we're in low dimension. So you often hear a lot of mediums will say, I have to raise my vibration so that spirit can lower their vibration and you can meet to get that channeling happening. If you've got somebody else on a very low vibration and they really want to hear from their relative, why would their relative want to come all the way down here? And why would somebody who's in a beautiful, loving, peaceful place, why would they want to leave that to come all the way down here to where it's low? I often say it's like, imagine if you're on a holiday and you were so relaxed and you just didn't want to be disturbed. But over there was a whole lot of people that were disruptive. Would you want to leave your nice, peaceful, calm place to go over there where there's disruption? So, excuse me, I often think maybe our loved ones don't want to be disturbed. Maybe they just love being in that space and they know we're going to be okay. They know we're going to find our own path. So maybe they don't want to always connect with us. But when we really need them, they will feel that urgency that we really need their energy. So, yeah, they do definitely. Like getting called, yes, exactly. Like, why, when you're in that peaceful, I often think that they're in such it's the warmth and the love that is on the other side is so nice. And I even feel guilty now. Like I say to some of my relatives, I'm so sorry when I used to annoy you and think you had to solve my problems for me. Would you come down here and fix this stuff for me that I bloody created here on earth, that I can't fix myself? I used to ask them if they could fix it until I realized I'm disturbing their peace. I'm disturbing their soul's journey. And it's up to me to take accountability for myself here. So I just think of them now and just think and smile. Yeah. So shape-shifting is not what one might think it is. I don't know. I haven't experienced shapeshifters. I'm somebody that if I want to learn something, I need to experience it, see it, have it happen before I can process it. So, I mean, if somebody has seen that happen, then that's their belief, isn't it? That's what they are going. If you to me, I feel like you have to experience it or see it to understand it. And even like in that case of Leanne's mother coming through me, that was just to bring comfort to Leanne. That wasn't, because if it was something else, then Fran would have seen it as well. And I would have felt something as well. That happened just as a way to bring comfort to somebody who needed it. So, yeah, that's not a subject I have knowledge on. Do your loved ones come in with others? Yes. Yes. And that was like in my near-death experience when I looked across. It wasn't just my mum that was there. There was absolutely everybody that I had ever had anything to do with in this lifetime. So, and I know just when my own mum was passing away, she was at home, and she, you know, that space that they go to, you kind of often hear hospice nurses talking about when somebody's ready to transition over from the physical to the non-physical, that they start saying that they can see their relatives coming through to help them transition over. And yeah, so they are always in groups. And this was another question that I have asked a lot. So you know how you quite often hear of people saying that they have to send a soul to the light. They think that somebody has died and their soul has somehow got stuck here on earth. And as a human being, as a medium or whatever, they have to send the soul to the light. My question around that is, where are all the other souls? So we've all got guardian angels. We've all got relatives that have passed. We've got a team of souls that are on the other side. So when I die and my soul leaves, they're there to take me. They're there to guide me. I can't be lost. I can't be stuck here on earth. So why do some human beings take it upon themselves to think that they have to do that? It's the same as when we are born. When a child comes into the world, into a human body, there is people here to welcome this child into this world. There's the mother, the father, the doctors. Sometimes even if a woman is giving birth on her own, she's still there. And even if a woman abandons a child, there is somebody that will find that child to try to save it. As a human race, there is humans here to bring a child into this world, to nurture them, to make sure they're being cared for. Exactly the same happens when we pass over. There is a soul family, a soul team that are there to take us where we need to be. There's no lost. There's no getting lost. When my grandmother and mother were passing, they saw relatives and people. Yeah, because they're just helping them. Because a lot of people are very frightened of death. And if you're very frightened, it's very comforting to know that spirit will go to a lot of effort to come to you, to make themselves seen, so you know you're going back to see people that you love. That's got to bring so much comfort and help to reduce fear what people have around death. Going into the light is a meme for a movie. And since movies are predictive programming, I would be wary of that statement. Why are movies predictive programming? Like, if we have, there's cultures, there's people in this world that still to this day do not have television, and they do not have internet. You know, there's Amazon tribes. There's still tribal people in this world that still live with nature. They have no connection to movies, and they have no connection to internet. And yet they have their beliefs. They live via nature. They know what is going to happen with their souls. They have tradition when, you know, they bury people. And they did that years and years ago, before the television even became a thing, or movies even became a thing. The Egyptians, and the way that they would honor a body, to preserve a body, and honor the passing over of spirit into another world. So it's it's a knowledge that's within our higher self. It's got nothing to do with what we get programmed by. It's there with us before we are even born. What do you say to those that feel that near-death experience psychic is attributes of the brain? Well, I think this is where we need proof. Like, if you see proof of something with your physical self, like that experience where I saw that 18-year-old girl giving birth at the age of 28. Like, where is that coming from? That knowledge is coming from something a lot higher than just my brain. I also know when I am doing a reading for somebody and I'm getting some kind of advice coming through for them, I can write something down that's coming from a much higher place. It's coming from another being. And when I read it back to me, I'm like, that is incredible. It is so profound. There is no way that my human brain could have come up with that, because I'm not that smart. So I know that it's coming from something else, and I'm just interpreting it. And when you hear it really, really clearly, the more and more you do readings, the more you use your brain for readings, the part of your brain that has your instinct, the bigger it grows. And then it becomes a lot easier. And then you just know this isn't me talking. I often say, when I get someone buys a reading from me and they send me a question, maybe they send me a question. Now, my Vicki physical human ego brain will read the question and think I know the answer. But that's just my opinion. When I very, very first read a question, I think that's just my opinion. That's just my belief. Then when I sit down and I get into my trance-like state and I step into the life of that person and I feel all their energy, the answer that comes through is totally different to what I originally thought. Then I know that the answer is coming from their higher self and not from my opinion. Is there any more questions? Yeah, God is like everything. It's a combination of absolutely everything. It's male, female, it's earth, it's the universe, it's the animals, it's everything. I really wish there is a way to describe the feeling of love that you feel when you have passed over. It's very, very hard to explain. All I can say is it's 10,000 times better than... I've given birth to children, and if you're a mum out there that's actually pushed a baby out, you know that euphoric feeling that you have and that incredible love. In that moment, that incredible love you have for this little being, and even as a father that's witnessing their child being born and then to hold their child, that love is so intense. Well, when we're on the other side, it's still even way more intense than that. It's very, very hard to explain. Yeah, I like that. Spirit mind is the true mind and the human mind, our earthly knowledge. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And it's really difficult to make them work together because our human mind thinks, I was saying this earlier, that we think, okay, I'm going to go and try this path over here. And then there's something in your instinct saying, I don't think that's a really good idea. If you go and do that, then, you're probably going to find some problems. But your ego, human self says, but I still want to do it. I want to go through that experience. And then you go and do it and it all falls apart and it doesn't work out. And then you sit there and you go, I knew that. Deep down, I knew that it was going to do that. But that's just exercising our free will, our free will and saying, well, I want to give that a go, even if it's not going to work. I think our higher self is continually steering the ship. It's continually putting us in positions where we're going to learn what our soul wants, what our soul needs. I mean, if I am not confident in something, my soul will keep pushing me into situations in my life to force me to learn to be confident. I could ignore that and sit back and do nothing, or I could take the challenge and go, okay, it just keeps showing up. It continually keeps showing up that I'm meant to be confident, so I might as well learn it while I'm here, this life, because I'll probably have to come back and learn it again in the next life. What do we learn as humans that cannot be learned back home in spirit? I think the whole experience of being in a human body, of being able to use our senses to start with. It's like tasting chocolate, you know, what's your favorite food? So that whole sensation of taste and touch, like you can feel love intensely with, so like when I was out of my body next to the doctor and I knew everything about him, but you can't feel anything physical. So when you're in the human body, when we're back here on earth, we get to touch. It's a different sensation. We get to see on a different level. We get to experience stuff on earth that you just cannot do as a spiritual being, because you're that's why we keep coming back. Like if it wasn't so good to be here on earth, why would we just continually keep having this loop cycle of coming back here? What has been your favorite meditation or astral projection? I do remember, I don't know if this was my favorite one, but I do remember in a meditation one day, this is after I'd been doing it for probably about 7 years. So I could put relaxation music on, shut my eyes, and I was there. It was like within a light switch. I could be in a very, very deep place. Anyway, I was in this particular class and I was deciding I wanted to participate. So I was listening to the lady talking, speaking the meditation. And I went so deep, I stopped breathing. I was extremely still and I wasn't breathing. Now, the lady that was walking around the room speaking the meditation, she was just watching everyone with their eyes closed. And she suddenly took notice of me and realized I wasn't breathing. So she actually came over closer to me and put her hand in front of my nose and mouth just to feel if there was any air coming out. And she couldn't feel. She said there was no breath. She couldn't see my chest going up and down. She said it was like you were the deepest you could possibly go and still be alive, but you just looked like you weren't breathing. And so she got frightened because I was so deep that she ended up speaking the meditation back around so that we all came back into our bodies. And like you got so deep you forgot to breathe. You can also do, like I've done meditations where I've visualized myself walking into the ocean and keep going, and I'm under the water. I can see everything under the water in a meditation. So it's kind of like you're relying on your physical body to remember to breathe because you can get so intensely engrossed in that picture that you're doing. Like you're in the ocean, you're swimming underwater. You don't even think about breathing because you're just there. So that's how deep you can go. Any words you want to leave everyone before we start? Probably one of the nicest things that I have learned about this whole process is to try not to judge other people for what they're going through, because we are all on such a different level of understanding. And, sometimes I used to get frustrated with, I would get very frustrated if I saw somebody that I saw so much potential in them, I thought they could be such a good person, but they were destroying themselves. I especially had a very close friend that she used to drink too much alcohol, and she was very worried about everything all the time. And I would try to help her to not be that way. And it was a realization that I can only do so much. So we are like a vessel to help support others, but we can't make them be something else. We have to let them find their own journey of discovery. So just by letting go of that judgment, and not feeling like I have to fix everybody else, and just being there, and I offer what I can offer, and if it's accepted, it's accepted. If it's not, it's not. But that's probably, yeah, just let everybody be who they want to be, and just let go of judgment. Yeah. Yes. If you like watching this channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. It's so good to share knowledge with each other, and we continually learn from one another. And sometimes we think we know stuff, and then someone will say something and it just flicks something in the brain, and it makes you think, well, that could be a bit different. So, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's my pleasure. Thank you all. Thank you, Prop.